Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Luis Fernandez. Today we're talking about everyone's three favorite letters, DMV. The North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles has been in the spotlight for long lines and long wait times. This week, a new mini budget approved by the NC Senate and House would provide money for more DMV employees and building new offices. And now, getting and renewing your license might be easier than ever. WRAL News reporter Kirsten Clark joins us now. Kirsten, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I love the sarcasm. Everyone's favorite three letters, DMV.
You know it. The North Carolina House of Representatives passed House Bill 245 on Wednesday, Kirsten. What would the law do?
Yeah, so this essentially would make it easier for North Carolinians to renew and obtain a driver's license. So when it comes to renewal, it would allow for more frequent online license renewals. And then when it comes to obtaining a license, it would get rid of specifically the law requiring for a certain number of hours to be logged for new drivers when you're practicing driving. So it would allow them to basically not have to submit that log, and they could obtain their full provisional license remotely.
Interesting. Okay, so we're going to get to that part in a second because there's a lot of intrigue with that section of things. But part of why this was passed was to expedite the process in the DMV. How exactly does doing something like this make everything kind of run smoother and faster at the DMV?
Yeah, so it's no secret that, there are long wait times, long lines at DMVs across North Carolina. The getting something as simple as an appointment is super hard to do. So essentially, lawmakers are saying that this would basically eliminate hundreds of thousands of in-person visits for people having to, again, renew their licenses or for new drivers to obtain a driver's license. So that alone takes away from these long lines and appointments needed to do those two things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because, a lot of people coming in, renewing that license. And once you renew your license, oftentimes it's a long period of time until you have to do it again. So I can see how this can come together. Now, for that second part that you mentioned, new drivers, teenagers, 16 to 18, they've had to log their hours.
Right.
Now they don't. Is it that simple? How does that impact it?
So actually, it is not that simple. And so we'll get into the weeds a little bit here about how many hours you have to log and then what requirement does this bill eliminate. So when we say new drivers, like you said, we're talking at least 16, but no older than 18. And these are people that have their limited provisional license and are looking to get their full provisional license, that, full driver's license. So when it comes to logging hours, there's a couple requirements. So it's levels. So initially you have to log 60 hours, right, to be able to drive at night. So that's one level. That requirement is not eliminated. However, after that 60 hours, you are then required to log 12 hours. Those 12 hours are eliminated. So you still have some hours that you have to log, but those 12 hours, which is essentially that final stretch before you get to your full provisional license, that is eliminated.
Interesting. Now, of course, this still has to go through the Senate. There's still a lot of steps that have to go before this bill would become law. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we look at reactions to this bill. Are there safety concerns for those out on the road? We'll be right back. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking to WRAL News reporter Kirsten Clark. As a new bill passed in the State House would make it easier to obtain and renew your driver's license. Kirsten, one thing we have to talk about here is the safety aspect of things, right? Like we talked about before the break, the new law would remove the need for the 16 to 18-year-olds to document some more of their driving hours. There's a section of there that would kind of skip over, if you will. How are folks responding to that change? Are there any safety concerns?
Yeah, so I think when you hear the word new driver, immediately there is a little bit of anxiety there. There's a little bit of concern because if you're a new driver, you just don't have as much experience. And so the part of this that's the most important is the experience here. And that's where the log came in. When you're submitting that log, that's proof that I've had this many hours of experience. I've written it down, I've submitted it to the state. And now, they look at that and say, okay, this person has driven this many hours. We feel comfortable giving them a full provisional license. Again, all of those hours all of them aren't eliminated, but a chunk of them are. And so, again, when you hear that, okay, they're getting rid of this driving log, this submission of proof that I've been getting experience, how can we trust that this person is okay to drive on the road, that they've been presented with an array of situations to respond and react to, and they'll be okay driving on their own. So that's where the safety concern comes in with a lot of people. But I had the opportunity today to speak with a gentleman by the name of Joe Stewart. He was able to give us really two great sides of this from an insurance perspective, but also he's with the North Carolina Alliance for Safe Transportation. And so he essentially said, at the end of the day, yes, we are concerned about safety, but parents play a role in this too, right? So if we get rid of the logs, because a portion of this log, again, it's a balance. We have to make sure that there is a way to expedite the process with the DMV, because it's ridiculous how long people have to wait. They're not being able to get appointments. But at the same time, we have to make sure that, okay, we're giving these people their licenses remotely and we're not asking for as many requirements, but we have to make sure that they're ready. And that's where he said parents come in. They are really encouraging parents, his organization, the DMV, they're encouraging parents to make sure, okay, even if we're not having to log these hours, take the responsibility to take your new driver out onto the road and get this experience that they need. Put them in, a number of different situations before you take them to the DMV or before they go online to get this full provisional license. And it's simple. If you feel like they don't have that experience, and, whether it be 6 months, a year, keep putting them on the road. But parents, guardians, use your gut, take them out on the road, and they should be able to help to make sure that these new drivers are getting the experience that they need.
So it's continuing to put a little bit more of the earnest on teaching people how to drive on their parent, their guardian, to supervise them in that way.
Exactly. We also spoke with someone from a driving school, and she also mentioned a similar thing where, when you go to a driving school, a large chunk of that you're learning at the school, but it can't just simply be up to the school to teach you. Again, that's where parents and guardians come in to add on to that and take those new drivers on the road to get experience.
An interesting balance there, right, between the safety element of things, the learning element of things, but also the actual DMV and the waiting in line. So for North Carolinians who, let's say the average North Carolinian, not someone necessarily who is 16 to 18 or who has someone who's 16 to 18, how does this bill, if it were to pass, how does it impact them personally on a specific basis there?
Yeah, so again, I think this goes back to just the process of going to the DMV. I know for a lot of people, it's a hassle, and you almost don't even want to think about it because it's just it takes so much time, and you're not sure if you're going to get an appointment. So, you have to take all these documents and make sure you have the right documents, or you're going to get turned away, and you might not be able to come back for a few months because of how long it might take. So again, even if you have to go to the DMV for some other reason that's not renewing your license or getting your full provisional license, with this new bill, you can possibly count on hundreds of thousands of people not having to come in person because they can now do that online. So again, essentially just making that process at the DMV much easier, less intimidating, and you can get done what you need to get done faster.
In June, North Carolina State Auditor Dave Bolick released preliminary findings as his office audits the DMV, saying the division needs more resources. In a statement, Bolick said, to provide citizens the service level they expect and deserve, the DMV must have more employees in its offices. New NC DMV Commissioner Paul Tyne told WRAL in June he was hopeful for an expanded investment into DMV employees and offices, which we've now seen in the new mini budget. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download, and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.